over the years, we have witnessed this different approaches how you can work with the wiki. I would say there are thousands of ways. Everybody is doing something different with it. There are plenty of use cases. There are plenty of approaches, people, environments, name it. It's really not easy, and that's a big advantage of wikis, that you are not that you can configure it however you want to. But we also see that people are coming to us and say, can you just help us to set this up? You have done this several times, and maybe you just give us some sort of a best practice if we start with something. And this is best practices should be the topic now for the next half an hour or hour. And I invite you all to share your ideas. And if you want to join our discussion, you can easily come here into, you are already in the room, but you can also share your video and audio. It's quite easy. You must just click on the right corner, and then you can then you just can join us here. I think it's about 5 or 6 people can join the discussion, and just feel free to do so. Best practices. What are best practices? I have had a moment, a certain moment a few weeks ago, when I was just sitting on the computer and said, it's not possible that a knowledge base could not, how can we even structure a knowledge base? A knowledge base is one of the most complex things to structure, because you have so many different document types, so different types of knowledge, different categories, ways how to organize this. And I come to the conclusion that we recommend for our customers more and more a certain specific strategy, how they can configure, or how the content design of the wiki could look like. And I'd like to show you what the result is. And I think from this example, we see, I think, all the problems and all the possible solutions we have, especially MediaWiki. I try to share this. Structuring a knowledge base. I just wrote an article, and what I show you now is, and this article will be published soon in Germany, and also on our website. And this is are the basic things. But then I have to switch to that. First of all, we have a use case, knowledge base. What is a knowledge base? So the definition says a knowledge base is first a software in which knowledge can be stored centrally. Okay. And what sort of knowledge? Knowledge that, if possible, every employee of a company should know in order to complete their daily work quickly, perfectly, and without errors, without having to spend a lot of time asking questions. You can imagine this is a definition by me, but I think we have to find a sort of definition. And I would stress the sentence, knowledge that, if possible, every employee of a company should know in order to complete the daily work. everybody, because that is already something that says, okay, don't have too strict access rights. In another use case, that could be different. If you have a different use case, then for instance, you talk about management systems, then you have access rights. You have to provide in your wiki. But now we say, okay, we need a very flat hierarchy of rights, and that is something we want to do. We want to provide people with knowledge centrally. And yeah, this is a huge problem. Why? Because we are dealing with very heterogeneous content. Those 5 are only, I think, are the most important ones. I have not only content, but the content is characterized by, for instance, different topic groups. Not every content is relevant for everyone. So let's say, for instance, it might be interesting for the finance department, but that is not interesting for the technical department. So, but they are sharing the same wiki, maybe, or that has to be put in the same knowledge base, or should be centrally, could be retrieved on a central place and not in different places. So knowledge base, central, but different topic groups. Another problem, we have different document types. As already a few times said, there are different formats. Classical descriptive articles, as we know this from Wikipedia articles, but also pre-structured things like protocols, checklists, planning documents, reports, and so on. Document types, they are all they should be found, or a knowledge base should provide a possibility to store it there, and so that people can find it there. Oh, now, of course, access permissions. Anyway, not every document should be read, edited, or even deleted by everyone, or even if with a very flat hierarchy. But there is we must know, do we need access permissions, and how should we how do we deal with it, with the problem? Assistance systems, yeah, what do I mean with that? Content often requires different technical functions. The most prominent one is that you need a workflow for work instruction, but not for an ordinary descriptive article where people just collect knowledge, or a protocol, or a minute. You don't need this there, but for certain documents you need it. And yeah, in the end, different languages. You have an audience mostly or often who have different cultural background and language background. And so content should also be made available for them. We have seen a few ideas in the talk of Margaret, how we can do this. Yeah. And for all this, I have a certain set of functions to structure content. I would say that a wiki is so special because it's not only that people can together work on an article, but they can structure it. So it's not only user-generated content. We are also talking about user-generated structures in the end. And that makes it interesting because the structuring system is open, but you need a best practice how to deal with the different functions we have. And we have, in the end, only 4. In MediaWiki, there are subpages for a hierarchy of a page. You have a page and you have a subpage for that. We have namespaces, which are more or less rooms for the histories of MediaWiki is that these rooms are made to provide a namespace for images, provide or categories, or even about for community stuff. So you see, there are different types of content in the namespace. It also has to do that the search can focus on certain namespaces and neglect others. And it's also something, yeah, you can also protect namespaces. Namespaces you can protect pages, but not on subpages. So, okay, this makes it different and special. Categories, keywording through the whole wiki, nearly on every page or every content page of a category system. And then what can I also do in the end? Okay, if I can put everything in one wiki, then I work with more than one wiki, with multiple wikis. And for instance, different languages, and things could be linked to each other. So what I'm not talking about is about semantic MediaWiki and the book functionality. That are also options for structuring within BlueSpice, but let's focus on that for. So now we have to bring this together. Again, I have different content types and I have structure and functions. And what I should do if I start a new wiki, or I'm planning to do this, or even if I restructure an existing wiki, is what are I have a structure and function like subpages. What should I do with it? For what do I need namespaces? And this is not so easy as it sounds, because I will show you it's not so easy, but in the end, if you make a basic decision and say, okay, what is the best practice? Then it becomes easy. Yeah, but what do I mean? You can see this on the slide. Put document types in namespaces. That is, for me, one of the results of hundreds of wiki projects we have seen. More and more, the namespaces are used to separate certain document types. And if you make Google search and have a look at knowledge bases and how can I structure this and so on, you will find out that there are document types, just a handful of document types you have to consider for a knowledge base. What do you mean? You see it in the left column. What does every company or the most companies need or organizations need? The classical article. Overviews, definitions, descriptions of products, services, how-tos, best practices, whatever. That is something where you just collect anything you want. But then in your daily life, in your professional work, then there is a point where you sometimes start, I need a planning document, anything. I write down a roadmap. We have an annual plan. I have to define some goals or metrics. We were starting a campaign and a strategy document. So look, this is completely different from an ordinary article. So a strategy, if you have, for instance, a company, then you describe a company in an article. But if you plan to for instance, an event for the company, then it's a different type of document. So specifications for projects facing. So planning documents is a second important one, I think. Something we also always see often told is you need a place for minutes. So, and team meeting notes, research results, meeting notes. It doesn't depend what department is using this. You need this for marketing, for engineering, for the management. They need minutes, every one of them. List of decision is a bit tricky, but if you ever have worked for an NGO or an association, you know how important it is to know what years ago was decided, and in the company is the same. What have you decided and why, so that you don't discuss things again and again. Then another one is task lists. Now I go fast forward. Reports, guidelines, a catalog, like, okay, I have to monitor the tech stack. I need a documentation of all tools and internal software use or external services. And then there is also documentation. It's crazy because if you all those document types you can also put in some order. Yeah, if your plan, then in the minutes you make a general plan. You have minutes for your what the week should be, in this week should be done, or the next month should be done. Then out of these discussions you get decisions, and in the minutes you get tasks maybe, and if you're finished you need reports, and in the end the result could be guidelines or a documentation. So I think basically that makes sense to have such a structure. And now we suggest to put all those document types in namespaces, because we do this nearly daily. Minutes or reports in certain namespaces. Okay, but now I have a problem. What is if marketing has a list of decisions? And what is with reports from sales and the guidelines from engineering? Categories. The easiest way to deal with that is use categories for team and company structures or topics, projects, but not for document types. That makes it very easy to deal with it. I have a list of example divisions of a small, medium enterprise. You have content about the company, personal finance, marketing, sales, customer service, production, engineering, internal engineering, however this is structured. And now you can create, for instance, minutes in the minute namespace, and you can categorize it with marketing or production. That makes it very easy to filter search results, for instance. And it's like a matrix, you know, but it's a matrix you can you come from two sides to the same content. Yeah, you can. Another advantage, but for MediaWiki, is that you can also use subcategories in MediaWiki. So I have an example here for production manufacturing or production assembly or production logistics. Whatever. This is just a basic outline I'll show you now. If it's so easy, why is this not common? Because you're facing problems. And the first is permissions. There are sometimes, let's just imagine human resources. The human resources division has no interest that their internal stuff is shared on a knowledge base, and say, okay, but it's maybe also not part of the knowledge base. What you should share on a knowledge base, which can everybody in your company has access to, is how they can apply for vacation, or how do we work in, what is about working remotely, or all that stuff. What do you do internally? You should put that better in your own wiki. That is for me, is a consequence out of this. And it makes totally sense for me. Not always, but mostly. Of course, you can also put some stuff in another namespace and protect this. But that works for a small team or a small company or so with a handful of namespaces used for that. But if it grows, I would expect that doesn't work. And but this is a consequence. The same goes for multilingual content. We have knowledge bases where, and one of the most prominent is MediaWiki.org, where they put different languages, translation of the content on a page in subpages. But if you do this, then the subpages are, I would say, nearly exclusive for providing multilingual content. And that makes it, that's a pity, because sometimes you need the subpages for expanding your content. So you have an event, and then you want to list the program, then you want to describe the venues and so on, and you don't put that all on one page, on different pages, but then subpages are so useful. But you can use it now, but because it's you need it for different languages. So you see, it's not that easy. Every decision has consequences. This is one, and a consequence would be for me put other languages in other wikis if you have enough content. Just for, or we will see maybe in the future if you can translate single pages on the fly with a translation tool like DeepL or Google Translate. Okay, then you got rid of the problem, because you push a button and you get it in your language, you get an explanation and a translation of the page. So what is with further use cases like a management system? No problem at all, because you can put your work instruction in another namespace. This is generic. This is something you just go ahead as you started. It's just a question if that should be part of your knowledge base or not, but mostly it's useful to have it there. That is the basic idea. And you see, you can discuss this now differently. I know there are people out there saying, or even in my own company, they're saying, no, we make it exactly the other way around. We have document types don't care, or but we want to see different teams in different namespaces. I just tell you what I think is from my point of view a good strategy to start, and a strategy in the long run. But it could be differently. And what I also want to emphasize is be pragmatic. You never can have a strict order for everything. It's not, everything is consistent, and it doesn't need to be always. As in, I would say nearly in no case, it's not really possible. But if you look at MediaWiki, that seems to me a very logical approach to deal with it. And yeah, that's what I want to say. Feel free to adopt and change this concept. It's only a basic pattern for inspiration, and so that you can quickly start and productively start. And over the time, your wiki will become your wiki. So, but maybe you have also other approaches or other problems solved or on the table, And we have now time to talk about this. And there will be an article where I explain everything a bit more precisely. It's already written, but not published. I still look for 3 screenshots, and then we can put it on the web page. But now maybe you want to disagree and say, no. You made different experiences. Just join us here.
Yeah, maybe I can share a few thoughts. Again, I agree with you. That's a really good approach. You have to think it through at one point, and with the experience, you come up with a system that works for a lot of people. What I usually do for myself when I think about the broadest application in general, I don't distinguish too much what needs to be a namespace and what needs to be a category. For me, categories is always, for me, a complete system. I don't even know about namespaces. If there's an IT namespace, I'll always have a category under my department's IT or whatever, just for completeness. So I like to start with a root category, like 1-wiki. So it's always at the top of the list in my category manager, and I start the subcategories based on like different knowledge areas, like department, and then the values for the department, document type, all kinds of these things, and it has to be complete. Because I always assume, even if I have a namespace IT, I could need the category, because I'm not working in this IT namespace for various reasons, but I have a document that also lends itself to be tagged with the keyword IT. So do I need to know that there's also for IT a specific namespace? No. So it's more generic to me to have categories, and they can overlap in a way and be used in different namespaces, although a namespace for this exists. So I also like to set my category system up very complete, like a real nice taxonomy, so to speak. I can then reuse these category blocks, so if I have a category department and all my categories are in there, my departments are in there, I can reuse it. I know you didn't want to talk about semantic MediaWiki. I can make a concept out of it and say, give me all the links to these departments. These are pages in the wiki, category pages. And then when I use a form, I can say, you only allow values from the category department. And when the new departments get added or new document types, your forms always work, because they always pull from that concept. So to me, that is my approach. It's very similar to yours, but the only difference is I don't distinguish as much between a certain term has to be either a namespace or a category. Namespaces, I agree with you. You then think about, do I do this by document type, or do I need certain permissions, or am I going to have a lot in that bucket, like meeting minutes? It grows fast. Makes sense to put them in a namespace. I don't combine these thoughts. I think about namespaces separately in a way when I need to set up namespaces. And then when I need categories, then I say, I don't care about these namespaces. I now make my big wiki category system. So that's a little bit of a difference, but of course, a lot of overlaps to what you say.
Yeah, I agree, because I think one experience is that the categories in corporate wikis are often not used, simply not used. Just look at our internal wiki. We are not using it.
But is it structured? Is it hierarchical enough to be used for certain things where people know, oh, I can look up the tree and we have this categorized nicely? Because sometimes it's just a flat list, or it's just keywords that somebody added and they're not really related to other categories, and then people create a similar category, that already exists in a variation. I think it helps people use categories. If you have a nice structured category system, that might help with using it more consistently. Idea.
Yeah, this is right. It's always the same. Even in other, even in our CRM, we have also the option to set categories for entries, and this is always something additional. I don't know which category. I let it be, and then a colleague, somebody like Andrew comes around and say, you have to do this. But I think it's also a problem that it was never defined. So our example internally is that this wiki has grown and people just worked with it and made experiences, and there was never a plan for that. And I think that could be helpful if you say, okay, I have a certain plan how we deal with things, and to be honest, often it doesn't work out. I would be surprised if people really make a namespace for decisions or a list of decisions. I wouldn't expect this because it's a document type. Yeah, but should I use this for that? Don't know. Maybe not necessary. And maybe just I put this in an ordinary article and give it a certain category. So it's like as in German say, it's a Krücke. Yeah, it helps
a crutch.
A crutch. It helps you to get started, but in the end, it's not the final word about everything, because that is for me not possible, because you don't get the whole every content you need of the company, or every team is involved or working on the same place. But for those who are working there, that could be a solution. But for me, it was also a hard decision, because losing the permission system, not really losing, but you know what I mean. What does it mean that how can I protect the content from sales against engineering? Yeah, make a new wiki. Make them with the same structure, for instance. But yeah, also that is what I was struggling with, and I can't wait if we find similar things or similar approaches for other use cases. Like, let's say for an IT documentation developed is completely different. The help desk is structured completely different. You don't have teams there. You have some sort of content topics